he rarely uses these sacred plants, and he explains that the person can become the slave of the plant. But also, he says it is only used in the cases where the person that is in the shamanic journey is unable to open their mind to see, or their senses to see, and they can't do it. They just can't do it. They have no access somehow. So then they use a certain plant that will give them access to whatever it is, dimension or reality that they cannot access. And then it's open. So just once is enough. Welcome to the Driving to the Rest podcast. This is Inelia.
And this is Larry. Just a quick note. If you're hearing this, you're on our free feed, which means you'll only get the first part of this conversation.
To access the rest, go drivingtotherest.com and subscribe to the Wisdom Keeper Hour.
Join us and our expert panelists for detailed insights and the after party where you're invited to join in the conversation. Head over to drivingtotherez.com and become a subscriber.
Your $8 subscription keeps this podcast ad-free and helps us keep the lights on and maybe even get a decent cup of coffee. More importantly, it connects you with a community of passionate wisdom keepers like yourself. So if you're ready to go deeper, join us at drivingtotherest.com and support the journey.
And here we are.
With our next episode. It's quite interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, this one is a little bit like a challenge to get out for some reason.
Yeah.
Some of them are harder than others. This one is a little bit more challenging, and it's about plant medicines, right? Mm-hmm. And I like the term plant medicines.
Yeah, I call them sacred plants myself, but I've known that a lot of people in the United States and other places call it plant medicine.
Right, but that term gets used even if you're using medicine for, recreational purposes. Somehow, if you call it medicine, it's okay.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of how they get the, pain medicine, right? Mm-hmm.
Right.
It's medicine. It's good for you.
It's good for you.
Anyways, we that's a different topic. This one is about
Iboga or Iboga. We haven't got a clue how to pronounce it actually, but it's one of those.
I'm pretty sure Iboga. It starts with an I.
Yeah.
It doesn't start with an E.
Yeah, but it comes from Africa, so.
Iboga.
Could
be. I wonder what. Yeah, that's a good question.
Sacred plants, are they good or bad? That's the title of the article.
How nice that they can be good, or they could be bad, right?
And what
they got to go into one of these pots. It's the bad pot. Or is it the good pot? Which one is it?
Yes.
So clearly there's a lot of nuance to this question. It's good for some things, maybe good for other things, maybe bad for some things, maybe bad for other things.
Yeah.
Maybe good for some people, maybe bad for some people. Is it?
Yeah. So one of the things that I've noticed throughout my life, having investigated some of these sacred plants, is that there's a piece of information that's actually quite relevant, and you can find it in a documentary called Humano.
Very, very, very good.
Very good. N-O, I think, Humano. Yeah, Larry pronounces it Humano or something.
Humano. It's like human.
Yeah.
And
with an O at the end.
Human with no H at the front.
With an H, yeah.
No H.
Yeah, it's if you want to Google it, you have to put an H on it.
Humano?
Yeah.
Okay, Humano.
And what the shaman there says is that you're going to be with a sacred plant that serves humanity, or you will become its slave. Right?
Well, he doesn't say it exactly like that.
How does he say it?
Well, you don't want to become the slave of the plant.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And you become the slave of the plant by using it too many times.
Yeah. And then you can't live life without it.
Right.
All right.
And that's where it becomes bad.
Yeah. That's what I was mentioning it then, because you were talking about what is bad and what is good and whatever, right?
It's always bad to become the slave of something.
Yeah. So is the plant bad, or is it the fact that you became a slave of it from overusing it bad, right?
Right.
There are certain things on the planet that I would call bad because we're living in a light dark paradigm. And when you ingest these things, you become possessed by demons.
That can qualify as bad.
That can qualify as bad.
Like alcohol, that's bad.
Yeah. So from that perspective, when I say demon, it's a very low frequency, negative, and destructive entity.
Right.
All right, so let's read a little bit of this article and then we'll see what we want to talk about.
Okay.
The journey of the shaman, and yes, I'm using this word in the modern sense of native people's wisdom keepers, sometimes involve the use of a sacred plant. In the past few months, the Iboga plant made an appearance in our community, so much so that Larry has researched the plant with the possibility of joining a ceremony. Finding a place has been quite an adventure spanning the globe from Africa to Portugal, Canada, and Mexico. The plant itself remarked to Larry and I that it's a journey out of Africa, specifically from the medicine bags of the pygmy, was intended to assist people through the time we are now, specifically shifting consciousness from light-dark to light, and that the secrecy it was kept and carried it forward to now is full power undiluted.
Yeah, you went pretty fast.
So there's a lot of information.
Finding a place, right? Yeah. Finding a place was the first question. It's like finding the plant was the first thing. The plant has been, this is actually a root, and it's the bark off of a root, I believe, powdered. This had been my intention for a decade or more, because on our Indian reservation, there were a lot of people who had gone to the free medical doctor, and the medical doctors were told that they have a new
painkiller?
No, a new vital sign, right? You have your blood pressure, you have your respiration rate, you have your heart rate, you have these vital signs that they always take you at the nurse, and they have a new vital sign. It's called, what is your level of pain?
Yeah.
And pain was something that needed to be treated with a new medicine. They have a especially non-addictive medicine called Oxycontin, right? It was unique among all painkillers in that it doesn't matter how much you give it to people, they never get addicted.
That was the line, right?
That was what they told the doctors and the nurses and everyone else. And then, of course, they had the power to introduce a brand new vital sign and make literally every doctor and nurse use it as one of the
things they need to
entry things that they got to treat, and it's required to treat. You can't just ignore it. So on our village, it turned out there was a lot of people in a lot of pain. And the pain wasn't just physical, it was mental, and pretty soon it was giant trauma throughout the village. I mean, it was
big,
absurd. It got to the point someone even stuck their hand in a winch to cut their fingers off on the hopes that they would have a very long supply of it,
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay.
Right. So it was generating pain, and it definitely was addictive, and it had a huge effect on the village. And one of the unique qualities of Iboga was that someone who has an addiction to opiates, heroin, Oxycontin, even though it's not addictive, obviously they were lying, that's completely addictive because it's synthetic heroin. All of those things, if they take a Iboga ceremony, and it doesn't have to even be a ceremony, it can be ibogaine. Ibogaine is the extract, what is the psychoactive? Anyway, they take that. A good percentage, very high. I don't know the exact number, but it's somewhere in the 80s, 90s even. It's a very, very high percentage of the people stop having the
addiction,
compulsion to have whatever it is that they were compelled to have. The addictions vanishes. And the best part of the story is they don't have, they don't have a withdrawal. Wow. Which is usually the reason that most addicts of that say they don't want to quit, because the withdrawal is so terrible.
Yeah.
Anyway, it had been in my attention at that time because I had researched for our village what it was that could help this problem. And that was the most obvious solution to me. Unfortunately, it was illegal in the US. And it was also like it's plant medicine like ayahuasca or Iboga or San Pedro or these things have a charge around them. It's like you can't use drugs to cure drugs or something like that, right?
Okay.
Even though they use drugs to cure drugs, they use methadone, right?
Yeah.
It has something
Well, it
about
doesn't
it.
cure it, but
So, long story short, I'm getting a little bit long winded on this. After all that effort of looking into it, it turned out not to be time for that plant because the tribe wasn't interested. I mean, there were individuals who were, but as a tribal entity treating drug addictions, it didn't seem to like budge the needle, just not interested. So it went to the back of my mind. And sometime recently, it popped in again. It's popped in again on occasion. You know, it's like knocking at the door, but not like pounding on the door, but it knocked and knocked and knocked. There was a Joe Rogan episode with the ex-governor of Texas, who is as anti-drug as you get. And he's like, I thought I should say, you know, the last person on the planet that would be tooting the possibilities of a drug like this. An illegal drug has got potential to help millions of people. In this case, it was PTSD veterans coming back from war that are mentally destroyed and, of course, traumatized. He was he was touting and creating a program to help get vets those treatments using Iboga because they gave their life back to him.
right.
They reset their brain to the state it was before they had these traumas or before you had these addictions. So it's kind of like pretty much a miracle, but it's also part of what makes it very interesting, right? So these knocks at the door kept coming in. So one time, finally, we just sort of opened the door and said, okay, so
Let's have a look at
let's
it.
have a look. When we went to have a look, it's still illegal in the US.
Is this? I didn't know that.
Yeah, you have to go to Canada or the Rogan show. They were going to Mexico. There's quite a few clinics there. There's ones in Europe. We looked for one in Europe
There was one in
because we
Portugal.
like Europe. We were going to look at Portugal. One of our friends was going to Portugal. So we're like, what's in Portugal? And there's an Iboga clinic there. And of course, Africa, Gabon, and the villages there. There's a real authentic kind of like you go to Africa and you go to the village, and you're not paying for a ceremony. You're giving money to the village, and they've invited you to a ceremony, and they're having a ceremony in Africa style, you know.
Yeah.
And there are many different varieties of that ceremony. It's not all just like one thing,
Right.
and that's the interesting part that started to come when we started connecting with Iboga as a possibility. It's like for some, it's a solution to an addiction.
Yeah.
For some,
Solution for PTSD.
a solution for PTSD. Yeah, and for some, it's a way to supercharge and expand your awareness in a meditation. Enlightenment. Yeah. Okay. So that was what I wanted to get in there. So when you're shifting your consciousness from light, dark to light, part of the struggle people come up against is they're not aware of what's the dark part of their light dark, or even if they are aware, it sort of like holds itself in an unconscious level to continue its right.
Yeah.
It's almost like you're having addiction to the dark.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Many current voices we listen to have had direct experiences of a pretty remarkable transformation, a real choice point that makes a big shift in their lives, from mind littered with negative low-frequency limitations such as addictions and traumas held as PTSD, to a life free of a burden of packing these around. A week or so, in some cases a month, of prep ceremony and after integration, and many report a return to the state of mind they existed in before the traumas or addictions took over their lives. The one they were born as. One shaman expressed there are 3 paths he was aware of for those that used Iboga. Some for addiction release, some for coming of age, and some enter a meditative mindset. It appeared the plant root is becoming a very interesting to light shamans, Bryson group of Gaia, and those whose choice of mission is now become be pure light. I was the opinion 15 years ago that no sacred plant drug was going to enter my body, no matter what. I was very, very stern about this opinion. One day I woke up to the vision of an ancestor, a machi, an old lady with no teeth, looking at me saying, mushrooms. So,
why do you think you had a autopilot reaction to well, what we would call drugs?
well, a couple
Because I
of
had the
things.
same thing for heroin. I don't know why, but
A couple of things. One of them was that even though I was initiated as a machi, which is one of these shamans, wisdom keepers from the Mapuche tribe, I was initiated twice actually by two shamans. One at 7 and one when I was in my early 30s. I didn't have any training with them. It was a one-day thing, and then I left. Even though one of them, when I was in my 30s, did invite me to come back and become their apprentice, I didn't take that opportunity, unfortunately. So I had no concept of how these sacred plants could be used in a positive way. I couldn't when I looked, I couldn't find people who were using it in a pure light way. And I wasn't going to take the risk of it allowing an entry to the negative entities.
yeah, I could see.
And also, I had a lot of experience. My physical body had experiences in previous lives, being an addict and an alcoholic. And in this lifetime, that experience was a big no-no. So there were certain drugs or the ingestion of certain amounts of alcohol that were a direct and a very, very strong no, don't do that. Okay. So that's the energy I was coming from. And so when this lady came up and said mushrooms, I said, no,
Yeah, right.
not going to happen.
Not gonna happen.
No, I mean, I've lived in Spain where I saw a couple of people follow the mushroom path, and one of them was completely destroyed in every sense of the word.
Really?
Mentally, psychologically, and all that.
Wow.
And another one, like it was just like smoking a cigarette. It didn't do anything.
Yeah, I
Right?
saw tons and tons in the village. We had cows running wild, and so there were a lot of cow patties, and those mushrooms grew apparently like crazy. And so they were fairly common in the village to do mushrooms. But again, I like you, I didn't see
It's
any at all
anything.
positive
No,
anything from
nothing.
any of them who did it. Zero. It was like
Zero.
had a great time. That was it.
Yeah.
Or even didn't have a great time and they tasted like crap and they it was like exactly as you say, it was a drug, not a plant medicine.
No, or sacred plant, right? So it was an energy of the person becomes the slave, and I didn't want to risk that. So I didn't personally. I didn't see anything positive coming from me taking mushrooms, and also I was of the opinion that I was omnipotent and I could do anything without drugs. Any state of connection or beingness or state of mind, altered state or whatever, so I could do by myself. Right. Anyway, so I jumped into righteousness and said to her, not gonna happen. No mind-altering, strong or hallucinogenic drug are entering my body. No way, no when.
No way, no when.
She kept coming back over the next few weeks and months, continuously, one word in her lips, mushroom.
It's like, what do you get with that? I mean, I can only imagine I'm not going to. Mushroom. Nope, ain't gonna happen.
Mushroom.
Mushroom.
Yeah. One day I woke up with
Did you think she was a demon or something trying to hunt you, or what's going on?
She was some sort of wisdom keeper,
Machi
shaman.
Kind of lady?
Yeah. It's funny because the Machi, like the Mapuche traditional dress, has coins and things on their forehead and like on their headdress. And they have very specific colors that they wear. But also the gypsies, which I also have ancestry with, they also wear coins. So I was like,
A gypsy or a machi?
yeah, I don't know, right? I'm pretty sure now, after all these years, that she was actually a Machi. And she could have been actually the Machi that I met when I was in my 30s.
Trying to finish your training.
Yeah, trying to continue the training or get something going because she couldn't reach me otherwise.
Okay.
Anyways, one day I woke up with the constant back pain I was used to from the age of 18 after having injured my back on a motorbike accident.
The moral of that story is don't ever let a boy ride your motorcycle and you
Right.
be the passenger.
Yeah.
Especially when he says he knows how to do it.
Yes, and he didn't.
He didn't.
The pain was something chronic and something that I would manage with the processing exercise that I do. You can find it at, there's a couple of them. One of them is called fear processing exercise. So if you get that, we'll put it on the notes, the show notes. And the other one is a stress relief exercise. Anyway, I was using that exercise with the physical pain. And it never went away, but most days it became less intense in the morning after processing, so I could get on with my day. It was always there, but it was less. I was able to walk and do all my things. That day, however, the pain did not lessen, it became intensified. By 4 in the afternoon, it was so bad, I felt my body going into shock. I called my husband at the time, and I told him I needed to go to the hospital. Knowing how I felt about doctors and hospital, he knew it was serious. He rushed home and rushed me to the emergency room. I got there as the ER shift was changing, and half a dozen nurses saw me through the car window and ran over. I don't know what I look like, but they ran over. They put me in a gurney and ran me all the way to the back where the most injured people are seen. I was treated for shock and then seen by a doctor. They started intravenous pain medication, and I was not fighting these drugs because I was literally dying. None of them worked. They kept asking me if I took pain medication because apparently my resistance to them was absolute.
Yeah.
I told them that the only one I ever took was ibuprofen or aspirin.
But they probably weren't believing you either, huh?
Probably not. Yet nothing was working. They went to higher and higher doses until a higher dose would be lethal, then changed to a different drug. One of them was morphine and other such things. Nothing worked, and my body kept going back into a state of shock, which at a certain point, it can be deadly.
Oh, yeah. Many people die from shock.
At some point, a doctor or nurse came in with a medicine that was different to the rest. She explained that it was the last choice due to whatever. I don't remember exactly what she said, and by now it was the early hours of the next day, and I was really ready to die. I noted for it to be administered. She made me sign some papers, and she placed it in the IV. At that moment, the old lady with no teeth popped up in front of me, smiled and nodded. She then said in a very relaxed, filled with humor voice, "Mushrooms." And she vanished.
Oh, no.
And there's a whole history of Earth and Gaia and much more. But the pain vanished immediately. And, I have talked about that vision in one of my articles from the time. It's called the light dark. I can't remember. It's like the splitting of the worlds. That's it. I talk about that experience of the splitting of the worlds a little bit.
Could you talk about it a tiny bit?
We will on the Wisdom Keeper Hour.
The Wisdom Keeper Hour?
Yes.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because it's very personal.
Okay.
And it's very expansive. And I really want to know what the opinions are of our panelists around that vision, because it explains so much to me. Yeah. And then a whole history of Earth and Gaia and much more, and the pain vanished immediately. After my body recuperated from the pain and shock, I asked the nurse doctor what that medicine was, and she said it's a mushroom derivative, rare and last resort.
See,
I was like, what?
can you imagine if you had just listened?
Yeah. One of the things I did want to mention is that with regards to that documentary that I highly suggest you watch called Umano, he rarely uses these sacred plants, and he explains that the person can become the slave of the plant. But also he says it is only used in the cases where the person that is in the shamanic journey is unable to open their mind to see, or their senses to see, and they can't do it. They just can't do it. They have no access somehow. So then they use a certain plant that will give them access to whatever it is, dimension or reality that they cannot access. And then it's open. So just once is enough, right? From that perspective, from that use.
Right.
And that's what happened to me, because I'm very hard-headed and I think, I know everything better than everybody else.
Mostly you do.
I wasn't aware why would I need mushrooms in the first place? But it was a connection that I didn't have. Because of the nature of who and what I am, I did not have that connection. And I needed that information to move forward with the chosen mission that I had taken on. I didn't have it, and, I needed it.
Right.
So that's why she came in with the mushroom.
Okay.
Because that gave me that opening. And obviously, I only needed it once, so that was it. So after that, I decided that if that toothless lady ever turned up again and suggested something, I would do it immediately. No need to be tortured to the point of death twice or again, ever. Some years later, I think it was about 5, I can't remember how many years later, but it was some years later. She came back and said, ayahuasca.
Oh, no.
And I'm like, no. I immediately says, yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. You don't even know what ayahuasca is,
no.
did you?
I then researched for a few months, connected with the plant, got the ingredients. Yeah, I had to, I heard the word. It was very clear. So I started using the search engines on the internet.
Trying to figure out what the spelling was, I bet.
Yes, trying to figure out what the spelling was. So I spelled it in one way, and then sacred plant. And I didn't even do sacred plant. I didn't know what it was. So it's just searched different ones. And then one of the searches came up with those, fixes your spelling. Yeah. And then it says sacred plant of the blah, 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 blah. And I go, ding, 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 ding.
That's got to be it.
So, okay. Yeah. So I tested it. I contacted with it. And I said, yeah, that's the one. Right.
Gosh. I can't imagine. Well, most, not you naturally, but most people, when they get that ping, go to ayahuasca, they go find someone to prepare for them in a good location.
I tried that.
Yeah.
I did. I searched for people who would do the ceremony and everything. I scanned them at an energetic level and I got no. With all of them. I scanned the planet after that to see if there was a provider or shaman that could help me do it. And I got a no.
Oh.
So I had to do it myself.
That's a very impressive feat.
So I searched it for a few months, connected with the plant, got the ingredients, prepared it, and did ceremony. Got my body ready and took the sacred plant. We will talk about my experience of the ceremony with the wisdom keepers also, because again, it's very personal. And the whole journey was personal also. So we will do that on the second hour. But yeah,
I know with ayahuasca, it's a process to make it. I mean, you can just go buy ayahuasca and then take it. It's like, no, you go get it.
You get the ingredients.
Do something with it. You have to mix it with something. You have to boil it to make some black stuff. And you have to sting at it for a long time.
Ayahuasca is actually the 2 plants, not 1.
Yeah.
That you have to mix in the right combination, ratio. Yeah. You have to mix it with the right ratio at a certain preparation method, and then yeah. And just like when you're preparing food, you have different ingredients. And if you're feeling really nasty or angry at the time, your food is not going to taste good. Right? When you serve it, it's going to be bleh.
Yeah.
Or if you're completely disconnected, you're going to burn it and whatever's, If you're not connected with that moment and those ingredients, often it comes back and it's lifeless. There has no life force in it or anything. It's like eating cardboard. And the same way, when you're doing something like this, especially with something so powerful, you have to be really diligent about the energies that you have while you're preparing each step of it, each step. And each step, I mean, I can share part of it. For example, when I was reading all about the people's experiences, and they were saying, yeah, like there's 20 people in the room and they're all puking and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, no, that doesn't sound right to me. I don't like puke. So if it's going to puke like that, then I don't know if I'm going to do this. And then immediately the information came in that there's a special diet that you can do for a week before. And I can't remember if it's like only protein, or you have to take away protein, you have to take away fat, or you have to take away carbs. I can't remember which one it was. I mean, we could research it and look it up again. But if you did that, then you wouldn't puke, right? So it's like, so I did that. So that it was very supportive of my own personal thing. Yeah. All the information would come in, and then I would start researching on the internet. And then sure enough, that information would come in as genuine and connected to the plant. So it's like, I was pretty happy about my connection with it. And again, I'm going to share what happened and the experience I had with the panelists on Wisdom Keeper Hour, because it's personal. And at a global level, again, he gave me a level of understanding that I didn't have with regards to the mission I adopted.
So with Iboga, what is that? There was no toothless shaman lady come and tell you about Iboga, huh?
No. It came in through you, actually, the plant energy. And we started looking at it together. When I was looking at it, and because I do come from a lineage of shamans, and I integrated two different matching lineages myself, it was like, it wasn't hard for me to connect with that plant, even though it was from a different continent.
Like a continent that you don't even have on as
one of my charges. No. I'm not responsible for Africa. When I was looking at the different peoples of the planet and which ones I would be responsible to deliver the message of empowerment for, it was the Americas and Europe and part of the Asian countries. But Africa was not even there, and Australia wasn't. Well, yeah, Australia was actually. But there was a couple of areas that I was not in, right? Oh, they were not my responsibility. And one of them was definitely Africa. Other people were dealing with Africa. Why? I don't know. I've never been curious to look at why. So even though that continent was not accessible to me, or I couldn't say that it wasn't part of my job, I was able to connect with the plant because I was very curious about things. I mean, one of the things I was curious about, because I'm learning to be curious, was if this plant is so amazing and can heal people and help people out of addiction and help people move into a more higher frequency paradigm and in themselves and everything. And it was held by the pygmies, as you said. How come those areas of Africa where it's from are in such a bad state at a human level? Right? Crime, drug addictions, mafias,
yeah, it's a good question. It's same as like some of the,
like India.
India again, yeah. One of the, or some, or where's the Buddha ones in
Himalayas?
China and the Himalayas, yeah. And yeah, it's a curious thing, isn't it?
Yeah, even if you talk about ayahuasca, it's like
the jungles,
and the cities. Yeah, and the cities in the Americas, Central and South America, in a bad state, man. It's really bad.
And were the Himano guys? Is that the ones with the thread that goes all the way from the mountains down? Which one's that?
That's the mamas.
The mamas, right, yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Well, it's because people have to listen.
Right. People don't listen. That's
People don't
right. That's
listen.
right. So yeah, I was very curious about that part, you know.
We don't even listen. You didn't listen
No.
until you're in your deathbed. Okay, fine. Give it to me if I don't know what it is.
But it's like with regards to the Iboga,
Yeah.
I just, it was one of my curiosity questions, and what I found out was that it does have allies within those places that made it persist through time, so that when this time came, it was going to be available around the world
In full potency.
Yeah.
And the job that it served to continue and keep it, in the pygmies' pocket, right, was to make
And
them capable of existing where they did,
yeah,
even though they're this little.
yeah, and they're still not part of our society. Or,
Right.
I mean, I've seen like the only real photographs I saw when I was in school in England was from the, like, I don't know, 20s maybe, photographs, whenever they invented photography. Yeah, maybe 1800s. And these individuals were very, very tiny, very small. And I remember this couple of English guys and then all these little people around them. And they were really happy, smiling. And then after that, all the other photographs are people who are like maybe 4 foot tall, really short people, but not really pygmies, right?
Hmm.
And I searched the other day to see the photograph that I saw in school. I couldn't find it. I found one that was similar but more modern, probably from the 40s. And even then, the people were not from the original photograph. Those are really small people. And the history that I learned in school was that the British discovered, because they discovered things, right? The pygmies, and they made friends with them, and they hang out for a couple, 3 days or a few days, and then one day they wake up and they're gone. The pygmies are gone, right?
They probably had a conversation with their plant medicine and said, guys,
Leave.
skedaddle.
Yeah. And they left. And they asked told people that were from Africa, where did the pygmies go? And they said they went back to the forest and then we're not going to be able to see them again. Right? This is why that's not possible, because they really wanted to take some of them back to England and show them off. And
Yeah, like they usually do.
Things, yeah.
Like, let's go see the circus.
And,
And go meet the queen.
And civilize them.
Need to give them the Bible.
Yeah. But they were gone. And after that, they were never seen again, even though there wasn't much. I mean, some of the forests were cut down and the areas were like destroyed in this war. And with the tall Africans, they were into, by then, and they were into slavery and fighting each other and all the nasty stuff already, even before the British arrived or even the Europeans arrived. And but these pygmies, they're like the energies that the British were talking about was like, it was like being with children. They were so innocent and beautiful and nice and good, And then they were gone. And you said, oh no, there's lots of photos of pygmies on the internet. And I looked, there isn't that many.
Couldn't find them?
But also the ones that they're showing, it's not the same as...
Pygmies, they're just short people?
Short people, yeah. Huh. And I remember when I was in Ecuador, I went to one of the Native American villages, and the grown men were coming up to my shoulder, and I'm only 5'2". So were they 4'8",
Sure.
4'9", or whatever's? And they're not pygmies, they're just short people.
Well, smaller people. Well, like there are a lot of Guatemalans in our area now. Mm-hmm. And when we go to Forks and go to the grocery store, they're dressed in their Guatemalan clothes. Uh-huh. And they're all half the size of everyone else.
Yeah.
It's quite interesting.
Yeah, yeah, it's like that, right?
Like that. But the pygmies are half the size of those.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So smaller than even. So
somehow they decided, and if it came from their medicine bags, they decided to go back into the jungle and hide themselves, right?
Yeah.
So that's the energy that I received from the plant. It made sure, by staying hidden, and maybe from sacred rituals only, right? So that it wouldn't get destroyed. It wouldn't get polluted or destroyed. It's same as with the people. In the light dark paradigm, they stepped out of the light dark and just went back into the light, basically, but staying with their physical presence here on the earth.
I see.
And then now it's a time when we are in a split, and we are going back to just light for those who chose it. So now it's making itself available so it can be a tool to that end. That's what I saw. That's what I perceived.
I'm going to give it a go, and I'll report back.
Larry's going to have a go.
If that's what happens. I'm my plan is to use your meditations in conjunction with it. So won't be using because a lot of, I mean, in my research, right, all of the different places had a whole bunch of different ideas of what they're going to do with this, all the way from everybody get up and dance all night in the smoky jungle, chanting and bang bang drums and singing Indian songs. Like, didn't really want to join the village in India. I mean, in Africa.
Indian songs in Africa.
Yeah, it's like not my, what's the word?
Cup of tea.
Cup of tea. I don't object to it, but I don't want to be, I guess, initiated into that. I guess that makes sense.
Yeah, it's not part of your,
not part of my
reality or frequency
lineage.
Lineage, yeah.
Right. So that would be just tourism. I don't really want to go be African tourism that way. I don't really want to go where that's, all about how to get you off of heroin. And, you're focused on those type of counselings and sessions and purpose, and it's clinical with the EKG on you and check your blood pressure every hour, and it's more like a went to a clinic. And then I did see some that were, I looked like kind of like attempts for lack of a better word, new agey earth muffin. Doesn't really know a lot, but you could get a hold of the medicine and can sing some crystal tunes, and those, I mean, that could be entertaining, but it felt more like festival culture than serious light paradigm selection.
Yeah.
So I think that the meditations that you brought in and the tools that you have used in conjunction might be a pretty potent experience. So I'll give that a try. Yeah. What I want to really hear, though, is what your experiences were with mushrooms and ayahuasca. So
tune in to our second hour.
Our second part was the Keeper Show.
Wisdom Keeper, yes.
If you don't hear it starting like right now, then you're not on it.
Go to drivingtotherest.com and pay those $8 a month.
$8
gives you access to all amazing stuff,
200 shows. Every one of them is its own little mini class and some expansion awareness. 300? I don't know, a lot. Right. Yeah. The best bargain on the planet. And it helps us. Yeah. So thanks. Yeah. See you in a sec. Okay.
Hello and welcome everyone to our Wisdom Keeper Hour, the second half of Driving to the Res. Today we're talking about Iboga sacred plants. Are they good or bad? Hi Larry and Anelia.
Hi there.
As always, we're joined with our esteemed panelists, myself included. I'm Ashley Swale, CEO of Iben's Academy, Iben's Method mentor, corporate HR leader, mystic, and yoga teacher.
Hi, everyone. I'm Dr. Kara Consigli, pedagogy expert, Iben's Method mentor, entrepreneur, gamer, and mystic.
Hey, everyone. I'm Fred Guerin, aerospace engineer, pilot, dancer, past life regressionist, healer, and student of the occult.
Hi, I'm Ileana Rogero, mystic, mentor, psychic meditation teacher, architect, and founder of El Método Ibens, the official channel of Inelia's work in Spanish.
Fantastic.
So, Inelia, you kind of gave a few cliffhangers in the first half. Some teasers into Wisdom Keeper Hour. So we wanted to just jump right in. And one of the first ones you talked about was the download of information that you got when you got mushrooms. Mushrooms.
Mainline mushrooms. Oh, she took a mainline.
Yes. Yes, the main line, literally. And it was like, isn't it like a spinal thing or something?
No,
Oh, okay.
it goes into your through your
Okay,
arm.
The IV.
That's good at least. Anyway, so tell us more. What was the information that you downloaded as a result of finally getting the mushrooms?
Yeah, so this was just before I went public, or just the same year. I think it was 2010, and or maybe even 2009. You know, I don't know.
2009,
Yeah, it's one of those times. I can't exactly remember, but the article does mention when it actually was, the previous article, and I had like a couple of question marks. One of them was when I first started feeling Gaia returning, like the power of Gaia, the high frequency natural energy of Gaia returning. And that was around the year 2003, maybe. And I felt really angry because I understood the energy of abandonment that most people suffer from on the planet, because it was such a big energy that left us. So I was very angry at Gaia, and I couldn't understand why that had happened. I just didn't know, or how it was carried out, or why, or anything. And the other part was I couldn't understand how the light dark paradigm began, whenever it was, 4,000 years ago, or maybe 12,000 years ago, or maybe 40 years ago. I don't know. But it feels like a long time.
Join us for the rest of this conversation at driveintotheres.com.
And when you go to driveintotheres.com and you join in the rest of the show, rest of the second hour, you also get to join in the after party. 9 o'clock on Fridays, we all get together, including you.